Hey, we're going to do a quick demo on how to do a 24 budget. So right now you should be seeing my screen and we're looking at peer group average, peer group median in the event rental space last year, just as a reference point. And again, that was 2022 data. 2023 data is included here for reference. And now I'm going to project out my 24 for this particular individual. So in this case, the main thing they do, they just do event rental. So there are no equipment sales or supply sales. We also had several assumptions going into it. We researched what we thought was going to happen in this neck of the woods and the economy, and said about 8% growth would be, ideal for us to kind of project to. We know we're going to be adding a couple people. We also know there's going to be an increase in employment costs because we did not give raises yet, and that's going to hit in 24. Also, to get to the 8% number, we're going to have to spend a little bit more in marketing. And when we take this 12 months and we spread it over uh, each month, we also are recognizing that in the past, 80% of our sales happen in 8 months. And in the winter months, we kind of die down. So we're going to apply percentages so that we have a monthly pro forma to look at. So first things first, we're going to look at our event rental to tent rental distribution. And in this case, you can see that about 60% was event and 30% was tent, with about 10% being other related expenses. So there's different ways you can go about this. You can take and say, well, I want to do a straight 8% growth. So you might want to take the 8% number and put it right here, 0.08. And of course, you can do this a lot of different ways. This is just the easiest for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my split on event versus rent next year, and all the other fees I'm going to keep equal. So I just want an 8% distributed amount. So I'm going to take and say I want to take last year's number, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to grow it by 1.08. And so that just gives me an 8% increase. And I'm going to take that calculation, and I'm going to go all the way through to get me to this. And now I'm getting a sense of, okay, what is my growth look like right now? I can kind of calculate to see that that works just by saying I'm going to take this projected year minus last year, and then I'm going to divide it by last year. And that should give me a picture of 8% growth. So let's just confirm that. And again, there's different things. Yeah, it's 8%. So there are different ways that you can go about projecting. You might look at some of these activities and say, well, we're actually going to see a lot more damage waiver this year. So you can make those changes right here. You can overwrite them. So in this case, if I just wanted to bump that up, I would just say 16 grand, 1, 2, 3, boom. It's going to change it slightly. This is going to be slightly higher than 8%. So if I was going to go and look at some of the decimals, I'm going to start seeing that change away from 8 to 8.13 or whatever. So this kind of gives you a sense of that here. And again, this was a fluke, other income of negative. So I'm actually going to project 0 here. And again, I'm getting closer to 8.3% growth. You have the right to make changes to this any way you want. Equipment damages recaptured would be another misnomer. You might want to set that at 0. And again, now I'm back down to 8%. So that's really where I'm focusing: tent versus event. And then delivery and setup going to be the same. And damage waiver, I want to see similar growth. You can also see as a percentage of sales, it's slightly different. So that is based on us plugging that 16 in there. So there's different things you can do on the sales side. That is your projection. That has to do with you talking to your salespeople. That has to you talking to your marketing people and figuring out what this might look like. Now, how does the cost relate? So this is a direct cost. So the first 3 areas we did not use in the past, which was to apply interest on rental assets, depreciation on rental assets, insurance on rental assets. That's something that we'd love for you to see in the future, just because we can add that in as a direct cost related to rental. They did get licenses and taxes in there. And again, no used equipment sales last year. That would be a negative number. This year, we're expecting to get rid of some of the tents. So I'm just going to say that we're going to clean up about 5,000. Now that's actually a negative cost. So that's going to increase our profitability. It's actually a revenue thing, right? I'm selling used equipment, selling a tent. But what it really is doing is it's recovering the depreciation expense, which we don't have any listed there. So give you an idea what that looks like. Licenses and taxes, we don't expect that to change. So we're just going to make that flat. We're just going to grab that number, bring it across. Maintenance, 2.3% of total revenue. That's probably fair. I do know that I'm aging my equipment a little bit, so I'm going to actually bump that to 3.3%. And I'm going to apply that number in there. So I'm just going to take this and say, take my revenue plan. Let's see how I'm going to do this. Probably easiest to just take this and make it solid. So I'm going to take the value of this. It's a little messy. 4084, 485, and I'm going to say that I'm going to do an increase in maintenance to 0.33, and I'm going to multiply that by our projected growth number, and so that gives us an increase here from 2.3 to 3.3. It's going to go up about 50 grand more, and that's okay. I can deal with that. The rest of these numbers, for the sake of argument, I'm going to just steal them and bring them down, but you could take your time and go through each of these. Now, what's going to happen is I now have all my sales in and all my costs. So I'm starting to see that my gross margin is going to drop from 87.7 down to 87.5. That's okay. We'll make it up in some savings here, although we did talk about adding staff. So let's talk about that. So first off, my GM, you can see the average and the median, and my guy is actually the median. So I'm going to actually give him a raise 150. I think that's going to be reflecting the fact that I've got a really good guy and I'm actually making decent profit with him. I'm looking at my split between my front, back, and admin. I'm anticipating a couple good people in the back. So first thing I want to do is just steal these, bring them across. And then I'm going to add, you can see there's a change a little bit based on revenue. I'm going to be adding back a house, a couple people, and they're not going to be super expensive, but they're going to be, at least going to cost me about, I'm going to say $75,000 more. So I'm going to take that number and I'm going to add 75 grand for those two people. So I'm expecting to have like an increase in back of house of at least a percentage point, 75 grand, two guys helping out on the tent crew, more so than usual, and that would help us with the 8% growth. But other than that, I should be okay staff-wise. There's going to be some increases in pay though, so let's cover that. This 90,000 I got away with murder last year. I'm gonna project that at 105. And this 121 on admin officer, that's two people I'm aware of, and I need to give them some raises. So I'm going to go with a 128 number. Now, what you'll see is that I just bumped up my employee salaries from 22.2 to 23.3. That's a 1.1% increase. The payroll taxes will probably grow with that number. I can take these expenses as a percentage of this and have that increase reflected here. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to actually just plug these. You and I both know that payroll taxes will not go down, but I don't really have time to do that in this video. But you'll see that we went up very slightly in the personnel costs. So even though we added two people to staff and we saw some increases in pay, we actually were only 0.2% higher, and that's because we're planning 8% growth because of that move. So that's kind of the thought process when you give raises for the next year, what your expectations are for that. For the sake of time, I'm going to say that our rent is not going to change next year, and that I should have similar expenses. Now we can certainly make those changes, but right now you'll see it's flat. And of course, as a percentage of revenue, you can see that going down. The same thing goes here, but we did mention that we were going to increase marketing. So let's take advertising up to 26,000. And then let's grab the rest of these entertainment and say that, our entertainment budget, all these things will stay the same. And you'll see that we increased our marketing 0.1%, but a total of $7,000. Education and travel related. Well, we do know travel is going up, so I'm not afraid to go to about 26,000 there. It gives us a new number. Again, there's an increase. These are professional fees. I don't anticipate any changes there. Keep that the same. And then this is overhead related to not variable, more related to the business. So my maintenance on my vehicles, all that stuff. I'm just going to keep these the same. And for the sake of time, my admin, I'm going to keep flat. Again, we can set all of these expenses as a percentage of sales. So you might say, I want to keep it at 5.3 and increase my spending in these accounts. These are fixed accounts, so they're not variable, but you might say, based on what's going on in the economy and inflation, I'm going to make them percentage, I'm going to make them stick. But you'll see just by doing that, we've kind of completed the exercise, and we're seeing that we expect our overhead to drop by 2%, even with those increases, if we keep everything else as is. Our overall EBITDA is going to go from 30 up to 31, and our dollar amount is going to go from 1.1 to 1.286. We can look at what that growth looks like if we want. I'm not really going to plan for any of the other expenses or incomes not related to the operation. So we'll leave those blank. And again, we should have a net effect here, and you can kind of see the difference. Now, in this case, we had corporate taxes at 310. I'm going to say that we're going to do something similar, and I'm just pulling that over for the sake of argument. But you can kind of see that our net's 23.9. This is a very safe budgeting process that we just went through. You can tweak it. You have a place here to keep notes. You can look at percentage of sales and make changes. Again, don't be afraid to spend time on the front end to really understand your business better and how it sits in the economy. All right, that's it.